On this week's show, Alex Small interviews the school's Registrar Frank Fernandez on his job and scheduling day, Chisom Ilogu highlights Lawrenceville's celebration of Black History Month, and Aidan Duffy reports from the ski club's trip to Killington. Lawrenceville's 10-minute newscast begins right now. From our studios inside the Lawrenceville School's historic Pop Hall, this is L10 with Ghael, Fobes. Hello and welcome to this week's show. Lawrenceville's boys and girls varsity track team took first place this past weekend at the New Jersey Independent School Athletic Association Indoor Track Championships. Both teams defeated other participants by over 50 points. Fifth former Ariel Claxton finished first place and broke the school record in the 400-meter dash. On Wednesday night, 16 Laurentians participated in the semifinal round of the Woodrow Wilson Public Speaking Contest. The finalists Anika Bagaria, Grace Blacksill, Charlie Christopherson, Fiona Gould, and Liana Ragusa will present their speeches before the entire school community on Thursday, March 23rd. On Sunday evening, several students will participate in the annual Biology Olympiad exam. The 50-minute multiple-choice exam is the first of two tests to determine the 20 finalists from across the country, 4 of whom will represent the United States at the International Biology Olympiad. On Wednesday, while underformers designed their course schedules for next year, Mathematics Master Keith Duffy delivered a lecture to the fifth form about fiscal responsibility. Duffy's talk focused on avoiding debt, financial planning, and creating a weekly budget to cut down on expenses. This month marks the national celebration of Black History Month, commemorating the events and achievements of African Americans in our nation's history. Our executive producer, Chisom Ilogu, had a chance to sit down with Lawrenceville's archivist, Jacqui Haun, as the first part of our 3-part series on the historic and current status of Black students at Lawrenceville.
So, Ms. Haun, could you tell us a little bit about integration at Lawrenceville? When did the conversation start?
I think the conversation really started behind the scenes in the 1950s. Headmaster Alan Healy, who was the headmaster from 1934 until 1959, was really passionate about the school being very democratic. He wanted to bring in people from other socioeconomic groups and potentially other races, which would have been very unusual at that time. So we know he was trying to get the school to take boys from different socioeconomic classes and have financial aid. And he approached the Board of Trustees and they clearly blocked that, much less having students of color at that point. By 1961, things had started to change. Obviously, like throughout the United States, there had been a lot of push towards integration after Brown versus Education in 1954. And in 1961, 3 students actually wrote to the board and asked for the school to be integrated. And when they asked for that, the board's response was that we didn't block integration, but we just didn't pursue it, and that the problem from their perspective was that they just weren't able to find enough qualified students to come here.
So, Ms. Haun, could you tell us a little bit about the first Black students on campus and a little bit about their experiences?
The first Black students came in the fall of 1964. There were 3 of them out of 642 boys, so a very small number. 2 of the ones we know about would have been Lyle Battles from the class of 67 and Daryl Fitzgerald from the class of 68. They actually discovered one another walking across campus because they were the first fellow African Americans they had seen in their first few days at Lawrenceville, and they began to realize that they were really very isolated in this sea of, other white students. There were no African American faculty, so I think the way the school approached it, they were very gung-ho once they decided to admit Black students, but they didn't prepare very well necessarily. There was not a lot of planning the way there was with coeducation.
Mm-hmm. And so when did the first Black faculty members come to Lawrenceville?
Not until 1968. We had a young man who was here for 1 year, and then he was followed the following year by Mr. Maxwell.
So after the first Black students arrived on campus in the early 60s, what were their experiences like for going on from there, like through the 70s, 80s, 90s, and up till today?
Well, in the early years, of course, there were very few Black students, so it was very isolated, and I think they felt isolated here. Most of them appreciated being here for the education, but they didn't feel culturally settled or necessarily always welcomed. They actually began to bind themselves together through the Black Student Society, which was formed in 1970. And it was more than just a club. It was kind of like their primary outlet for being together and sort of sharing their experiences as Black Laurentians.
And would you say that the arrival of Black students on campus kind of would pave the way for more students of color, at least domestic students of color, coming onto campus and being a part of Lawrenceville community?
Absolutely. It would have been impossible without those few students that started out here in 1964. They were revolutionary in their way to the way the school had been, but they very much shaped what today's Lawrenceville is.
Thank you, Chisom. Lawrenceville's Registrar Frank Fernandez is responsible for coordinating the schedules for more than 900 students and faculty members on campus. Our senior news correspondent Alex Small had a chance to sit down with Fernandez to discuss what goes into this complex process.
So Mr. Fernandez, today is scheduling day, which at Lawrenceville means that underclassmen are setting their schedules for the next year. What is your role at this point in time?
Well, I created I had updated the course catalog with all new classes, any kind of edits to descriptions or name changes and whatnot. And then I prepare that or put it on the website so that everyone can look at that. And then we design the course selection sheet based upon that. That's basically what was prepared for today. And then after all the students make their choices, they get the sheets back to their advisor or their housemaster, and then they get them back to me, and myself along with about 10 other people, we actually enter all the requests into Veracross manually by hand.
And so then in that process, how long will that take, and what does that entail to make sure that each student is getting courses that he or she has requested?
Well, once they're in the system, then the department chairs look at what each student has requested in terms of their discipline, and they'll make approvals or denies based upon whatever requirements they're looking for or prerequisites that they have. And then once they have decided or figured out, who's taken what, they'll decide how many sections of each class are required. And then from that point, now we're entering into like May, June timeframe, they'll give me a staffing sheet that will say, this teacher is teaching this course, and this course, this teacher is teaching these other courses. And then from that, I build a schedule from at that point.
And for graduation requirements, students who come in as new sophomores or students who take arts more than religion or still have some credits to fulfill, how do you work into their schedule, and how do you communicate with advisors to make sure that everything by the time they graduate has been fulfilled?
Well, the advisor should be really seeing what they have accomplished up to that point. And they should be aware of what requirements the student still has to make. So if they have taken, perhaps they took an advanced studio their fourth form year and pushed off their U.S. history to fifth form year, they need to make sure that that student has actually put U.S. history in for their fifth form year, because that's a requirement to graduate. So it's really on the advisors to really verify all that. When I'm building the schedule, I do sometimes check back and make sure that they do satisfy those pieces, or if there's special notes about different classes. A student wants to take 2 maths in 1 year, so they're pushing something else off. But it's really on the advisors to verify and make sure that the students are on track to graduate.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Fernandez.
Not a problem, Alex. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alex. Over winter gathering, a group of students traveled to Killington, Vermont to enjoy a weekend of skiing and snowboarding. Our senior sports correspondent, Aidan Duffy, went on the trip to bring us a report.
Over a winter gathering, Laurentians braved the cold to face the beast of the east in Killington, Vermont. I'm here with Ski Club President Sam Cavett. So Sam, it's a great day up here. How's it been so far?
It's been beautiful, a little cold, a little windy, but everyone's has smiles on their faces. We're out here enjoying some sun and some snow. It snowed a little bit last night. I think everyone's having a blast. I'm pumped.
So besides the awesome skiing, what have been some highlights of the trip?
Oh, you love to see the Patriots win last night. We had a nice little Super Bowl party, lots of food. Some lasagna was cooked up. We had tons of snacks. Stayed up till 11 just watching those boys play. Love it.
I'm here with Ski Club members Jung Soo, Hannah, and Christina. So guys, great conditions out here today. What are some highlights of the trip?
Probably just meeting a lot of new people, and the conditions have really been great, so the skiing was a lot of fun.
Watching Jungsu fall.
I'm here with ski club members Eugene and Stefan. So guys, how's your experience been so far?
It's sick if I do say so myself.
I think it's been pretty cool.
It proved to be an awesome weekend here on the mountain. From Killington, Vermont, I'm Aidan Duffy. Back to you, Ghael.
Thank you, Aidan. That is our show for Friday, February 10th, 2017. From all of us here at L10, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you right back here next week. Good night.